Hi, everybody, and welcome. I'm Haley Mitchell-Hauken. I'm the editor of Sheila-Na-Gig Online and Sheila-Na-Gig Editions. And tonight we've gathered to celebrate the work of Tennessee poet KB Ballentine and the release of her full-length collection, All the Way Through. And we also have a wonderful collection of contributors to Sheila-Na-Gig's Winter 2024 issue as well that you'll be hearing from. So welcome, everybody. And welcome, KB. Very excited to have you here. It feels like the book has been out for a while, but it hasn't really, right? But it's exciting to finally get the chance to celebrate all the way through. And I'm going to give you a little bit of background about KB, and then we're going to let her take it away. Okay? So KB Ballentine lives and works in Southern Appalachia and earned her MFA in creative writing from Lesley University in Cambridge, Massachusetts. When not shuffling letters into words, into lines, she enjoys hiking, reading, and traveling. Her books are published with Blue Light Press, Iris Press, Middle Creek Publishing, and Celtic Cat Publishing. And her work also appears in anthologies, including Women Speak editions that we publish here at Sheila-Na-Gig. I Thought I Heard a Cardinal Sing, and The Strange Poet. So welcome, KB. There's so much more we can say about you, but I think people can tell this is not your first rodeo, and we're happy that you're sharing this rodeo with us. So go ahead and take it away.
Thank you, Haley. Thank you, Sheila-Na-Gig, everybody associated with that for helping bring this book to life. I really appreciate it. I appreciate everybody being out here tonight, especially those of you who came to the live event, who came back for more. That makes me feel really good. So I'm just going to jump right in with these poems. This is The Sigh after Ted Kooser, one of my favorites. You look out the window and sigh, and the trees shake their locks, whispering the secret of comfort, to bend with the burden of wind, to let a river of rain fall when it must, to scorch in heat and from ice, yet sing each season, reaching into a wide blue promise, knowing you are not alone. This is Leaf Spear of Light. From a graveyard of pines, a towhee trills, one voice box gliding into the second, an answer farther in the woods. I might imagine them dreaming as silhouettes of dogwood branches lace the forest floor, what's left of last winter's storms. Clouds pebble the sky, almost glued to an excruciating blue. March grumbled in, now a brilliance of forsythia and redbud. Today, we too can sing out of our losses, take the shadows for what they are, ephemeral darkness, no weight, no substance, only stardust. So this book is called All the Way Through for a reason. Whatever darkness you're in, keep going, because there's light on the other side, and that's what I like to celebrate. There's always darkness around us, so look for the light. Fire has no memory. What I missed was an anchor, the one friend who understood each loss, until that loss was you. It's silly to talk of broken hearts, burned bridges, when each day is another ladder rung to struggle, each morning starting again at the bottom, each sleepless night clinging to a step that cracked under the rough weight of emptiness. What you missed was me gathering the pieces, heaping the ashes and emerging like a phoenix, blazing, rising, wild. The Lost Heart. Branches twist in February's wind, rain usurped by snow, dew turning into crystalled coins. Cardinals color the feeder, pulse in the gloom, their chirrups echoing the yard and sagegrass as sun sets. Each tree branch frosted, the choir of evening descends into silence. Ice, like braille, lines the entrance, cobwebs of moonlight, sifting spirits still tucked in crevices. Maybe our loss is the miracle. A shaman somewhere etches names in the cave of the dead. Unfiltered after 50. Fear seized, trapped me once too often. I let it fester, scar an ugly green like the pencil lead a boy jammed in my thigh in 7th grade when I wanted to open my mouth, sing about moonstone and malachite, ghost of the writer already breathing in me. But my tongue furred, jaw clamped, then rusted shut. I wished I lived when monks inked parchment and vellum, quills scratching and tapping in forgivable silence. The woodpecker, now my totem, unrepentant in her brash staccato, commanding her space, boundaries extended as she needs, her perforation of trees unmistakable, a wild castanet, unquenchable. This poem is called Anti-Lament. And I forget now, I want to say, I should have, this is probably after somebody. And I regret that I haven't written that down somewhere. Anti-lament. For all the no's you were told, say yes. Yes to the opportunities that came anyway, in spite of. When you missed the last days of your grandfather, hearing too late of the stroke, the coma, but you remember his large callous palm around your hand at the flea market, snuggling into his side at American Legion meetings. For the no to having a brother or sister, for the no to having your own children, you are thankful for the many rooms full of students you have cried and laughed with, witnessed that ember of understanding. Those who will keep in touch, who give you a hug when they see you at the grocery store or at the mall. For the no to the job in London, remember the yes to seeing other countries, putting your feet in foreign seas. For the no to the marriage that didn't thrive, for the no to a body without scars, for all the wisdom you learned the hard way, there was another way that became yours, that became you. A yes to love again. For the no to living by the ocean, there was a yes to 4 seasons, to mountains that move with the mist, to fields waving with coreopsis and coneflowers and leaves the colors of sunsets. A yes for when you wake in the morning, surrounded by darkness, dawn blossoming just beyond your walls. That was a hard poem to write. I hope each of you takes a moment to write your own anti-lament poem. Feel free to explore those and work your way through them. Every grief you have not said. Breathing the ashes of dreams, I slip to the strand, waves beckoning. The curve of moon flickers like a gaslight between clouds, rain promising. Sand shifts, scours my feet as I climb the dunes, sea oats and saw palms, dim silhouettes. Metronome of surge and suck remind me the ocean throbs with secrets, unshareable. Striding the tide line, salt spray beads my skin, echoes of ghosts hissing in foam. And you, where are you now? Scattered like the shells, like silverfish that whirl the depths? When we let you go, did you return? Or did you drift to other shores, a cove, a key maybe, a place finally to rest? I always have a poem about dogs. As much as I like cats, I like dogs even better. Aim at the wilderness. I follow where she leads, her nose relishing the unknown. The wilds of our walk call to her. Where I see the same houses, the same trees, she pays no attention. A squirrel in our yard would have sparked leaps around trees, frantic barking. But here one rushes 2 feet past, and her nose wriggles and snuffles along a path only she knows. She stops, pushes her snout a little closer, a little further into the grass, the dirt, tail wagging, hind paws dancing. To be that eager, that excited about anything, to shut out all but this moment right now, the holiness of that. Ah, the secret. Heart full of seed. Wind thrashes the oaks, scatters acorns against the metal roof where squirrels we'll feast. This room, warm and snug, embraces me. Though the sun has risen and blues the sky, frost veils the cars, the yard, my heart. So many years I shaped you as the villain, but I want to let that go. A splinter moon sets my mind wandering. Do you remember finding me on that midnight trail when the rescue searchers couldn't? How you even brought a thermos of hot tea and pulled socks from your pocket? You were the light I knew would shine, and you shattered me. But the shards I have gathered are trimmed in gold, the edges of every scar shimmering with wisdom, even a kind of peace. Blow, wind. Go ahead and toss the branches. Blow. Drop the loose, the weak, the rotten things, and watch me turn them into gifts. 2 more. Design restored. A choir of snow sings twilight's silence. Feathered flakes hushed as they caress, then hug the cradles of trees, leaf heaps, fields furrowed and splotched. Monochrome of crow and rock outlined against the white sky. My eye a bright coin, my breath twisting from vapor into nothingness. A world blank, ready to reshape. This time, let's use cobwebs and honeybee pollen instead of concrete and drills, the only gouging done by the woodpecker's beak, the beaver's grooved teeth. Let's start again with this blue-green bead polished and pulsing on a sable cape, nodding to the Pleiades, sipping from the dipper. A harmony, a rhapsody, like angels humming something almost remembered. And lastly, you guys can't hear it, but the wind is blowing mightily outside my house. And this last poem is called What Wind Knows. Wind blusters the canopy of trees, clouds bruising a marbled sky. Chimes whirl and sing while the chickadees hide. Yesterday's sun burnished a falcon gliding through the blue, golden feathers stretched wide. I couldn't look away. Wildness at large. Today, a different kind of wildness. Fury of leaves spattered with rain, gusts mistaken for thunder, rush of wind against my face. These days, each day, a measure of grace, a reminder I am not in control, not of where the light falls, not of the dropping blossoms that look like snow. Breathe in this moment. Now, let it go.
Mhm.
Thank you.
Thank you, KB. So wonderful and so necessary, right? These poems are just really moving me tonight. I think you read a number of my favorites, and KB's book all the way through. It's over 100 pages long. It's one of our longer collections, and you can dip in anywhere, and you are going to find a new favorite poem. So thank you so much for sharing them with me, with us, but with me first, and then us, the rest of the world. So excited. So we are celebrating KB Ballentine's full-length collection all the way through. And now we're going to be moving into our invited mic portion of the event. And we have a number of people from our winter 2024 Sheila-Na-Gig online issue. And I thought I'd do something a little different tonight and just kind of plug some of the books, because tonight we have a number of Sheila-Na-Gig authors sharing who were in the winter issue as well. So I thought I'd just do a little shout out to some of your collections as well. So we're going to be hearing from George Franklin. I have now published 3 of George's collections plus a chapbook. And very soon we are going to be releasing Poetry and Pigeons, short essays on writing. So this is our first little essay collection. Looks really nice. Okay. That should be heading to the printer next week. So we're getting really close on that one. So pretty excited about that. We also have Judy Kronenfeld here, and we published her collection, If Only There Were Stations of the Air. We're going to be hearing from Judy. and Simona Carini, who is busy curating our spring issue right now. So Simona's here, and she'll be sharing her work, but we've also published Survival Time from Simona. And I always think of Simona and Cynthia in pairs because your books came out at kind of similar times to each other. So it's fun to have Cynthia Anderson here as well. And her book with Sheila-Na-Gig is Arrival. And many of you here already know these works, but I'll put them in the chat if you're interested as well. And then welcome to our new and returning Sheila-Na-Gig friends, with some familiar faces here and some folks to welcome for the first time, and lots of friends here supporting as listeners as well. So we appreciate you all. Thank you for being here. George, why don't you go ahead and take us into our invited mic?
Okay, thank you, Haley. First of all, also KB, that was just it's such a wonderful book, and it is a necessary book. And it just they're poems that I feel very strongly about. Just want to thank you. The first poem I'm going to read tonight is from the current issue of Sheila-Na-Gig, Natural Causes, and I guess it's a kind of elegy. We'll see. I'm at that age where friends die from natural causes. Maybe they're working out on the elliptical and feel a pain in the chest, nausea, and a little while later they've stopped being themselves. They've become memories for the rest of us. I want to be able to call them on their eternal cell phones, ask what they're reading these days or what they think about the election. I have to imagine their answers now. Bob is reading Pushkin in a comfortable house made from adobe brick and shiny blue tiles. From where he's sitting, he can hear a fountain. In the distance, mountains cast shadows across a valley. A dog barks at a truck passing by the gate. In another ending, my friend Eric is reading a sci-fi novel he somehow missed before. He no longer cares much about politics. Once you're dead, he tells me, you realize we all end up the same. It either makes you a belated nihilist or a hopeful pacifist. But there's always new books on the bookshelves. The mug of black coffee stays full and warm, and he can order pizza whenever he wants. It's like a video game where you've beaten all the levels, have way too much in the way of weapons and health, so you can wail on the villains as much as you want, except the fun's gone out of it. About this point, the connection gets wonky. Sounds like we're talking through tin cans and a string. And I remember I haven't called Tom, who became an actor out in L.A., or Catherine, who lived in St. Paul. At least that's where they used to be. The other poem that was in Sheila, in the current Sheila, is A Persistent Roar. In Massachusetts, our building faced an alley behind some grad student housing. When it snowed, they plowed us last. And when they did, the plow would dump mounds of snow on top of the cars. The hard, heavy stuff that turns to concrete by the time you get down to shovel it off. Just across the alley was a commercial laundry. The extraction cycle shook the whole building. You didn't put anything on the edge of a table. In the spring, though, I'd leave to go camping by myself in New Hampshire or Vermont. My wife stayed behind, preferring regular showers and time on her own. Things were not good between us. One year I left too early and I wandered onto a trail that had been washed out by flooding. I had to cross a stream that was above my thighs, and I came out shaking, my body temperature lower than it should be. It was still daylight, but I crawled into my sleeping bag to get warm. When I woke up, the sun had already dropped below the mountains. I cooked oatmeal on a brass camping stove and went back to sleep. Two divorces later, I don't remember the things we fought about then or why they were important, but I remember the smell of oatmeal, the stars sliding west, and the persistent roar of that stream. Thank you.
Hello, everyone. My name is Melissa Holmes Shoemake, and I just wanted to start off with expressing my gratitude for being invited into this space tonight. My poem that appeared in the issue is titled Winter Solstice, The Wild Hunt. 1. On the furthest axis tilt from the sun, my sister was born, in the liminal space between seasons. On this darkest night, our ancestors celebrated a war in the sky, the sifting cosmos, a frail guard against the ghostly procession of Odin's gathering of the undead for Valhalla. The 6 hooves of his horse clamber in shadows over the living. Clouds betray their unseen shapes, while indoors hives of humans warm around the rune-inscribed Yule log in celebration of the celestial battle, their drunken bellows stitching itself within the biting winds. 2. At the end of her life, she swallowed one storm and then another. She wore an unseen Iron Maiden and the weight of a demon. Each day was an invisible war, the wild hunt for a chemical craving. She ransacked her body to numb a burning, and when the preferred prey of opioids eluded her, it was crushed, strawed Benadryls, benzos, cut-capped whipped cream, vodka, and pleading to a god in the sky she can't see, pleading to rest in the thin, euphoric moment just before the hunter's shot. And then for my second poem, I'm going to read a poem that recently appeared in The Shore. It's titled Meditation Over a Lagunitas Beer with iPhone, after Robert Haas. All the new technologies are about loneliness. In this way, they resemble the old ones. The radio, for example, connects waves of sound to your eardrum to some other part of the world. The thrill of a faceless man delivering the weather report in a character-stricken diction, now a wholly inadequate cure for lack. But still we wear AirPods as a constant barrier, as a guard against old-school conversation. Or we devour metal and plastic handheld notions with our eyes, constantly made new, born from the now seemingly archaic BlackBerry. A text is an elegy to the human voice. We chatted about it drunkenly at first, then quickly between work meetings, and in the emojis I sensed an inability to understand humanness or subtleties in the expressions of an actual face. After a while, it seemed structures dissolve, less than sign, 3, parentheses, you, and I. There was a love I once held for the agony and a voice during a phone call from a stranger. Their thin thread of fear for the unknown pulled a tone of involuntary comfort from my lips. I felt a delicious wonder in who they might be, how she brushes her hair out of her eyes or the length of his beard. Appearances don't matter, of course, unless it's a profile picture, which used to only mean a face upon which one gazes from the side and not a representation of all that you are to someone you may never meet. I is a technological stand-in for the body, and in moments when skin is screaming to be touched, another's flesh against our own is more a passing forgotten wind than a place we return to. Don't speak. Finger glass. Swipe left, swipe left, swipe left. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Judy Kronenfeld, and coming to you from Riverside, California. And Haley, I wonder if you're able to put up the photo by Vivian Mayer. Okay, I've been fascinated with Vivian Mayer for quite a while now, and have written quite a few poems on her photographs. So many of them are set in mid-century New York, and they kind of push all my memories of childhood buttons. So this is Ode on a New York Street, after this photograph by Vivian Mayer, titled East 108th Street, September 28, 1959. A shabby building, sidewalk in front, a stained, never finished palimpsest, littered with a snow of debris, dropped, blown in, unpicked up. but it's home for those who raise their window sashes in apartments clammy as wet clothes, for whoever propped open the front door, hoping for a stray breeze in the dark hall. Home for the 2 ground floor kids with a great view of the street, snacking as if at the movies, their elbows cushioned on their pillow-softened windowsill. Home for whoever lives on the floor above, where a pillow's on the sill in readiness too, like a reserved spot at the theater. Home for the buxom woman framed by her window, like the girl Rembrandt painted, peering from the upper half of her Dutch door. The modern woman also almost leans through that proscenium arch from the dim backdrop of her privacy. She's focused on what the man on the street below forever hides in his hands, as is the woman by his side. What transaction could they be engaged in? Magnetic field of home, enclosing the young kids sent out into the fresh air after school, instructed to stay on the block. The blonde girl sitting on the dirty stoop, regarding something in her lap, the brunette standing near, who might be pressing her to play, the boy whose tush and shorts and one bare leg are all we see, perhaps about to scooter ride, one foot on the bar yoking the back wheels of his trike, the other pushing against the sidewalk. Kinesthetics I suddenly recall from being 5. What delicious thing has made the ample woman at the center of the scene break into a smile of such delight? Something the friend she's walking with has said, whose own cheek might be a little puffed with glee? What is the man with jutting nose and chin, hands fixed on hips, the only person both alone and static, unengaged, staring at, and why? These stories in medias res have long concluded, and there is no key. Yet, spectators of the spectators, we look on and on. O silent cityscape, frozen by the shutter's click, you tease us out of thought and rush us former city kids to when, going outside, meant to descend on a warm fall afternoon into the redolent, riveting street of all being. Okay, and because we're living in such dark times, the next poem will be not dark, but kind of a little bit humorous, I hope. Although it's not completely undark, come to think of it. Parable for Old Age. This was in Third Wednesday, just a month or 2 ago. Parable for Old Age. Shining like topaz, enticing as the last sweet-filled Easter egg still hidden in childhood's grass, a tiny drop of honey lingers after I finish sipping my hot tea. I tilt the glass up, bend my head back, purse my mouth. The drop slips down the inside of the glass so slowly, sends a trickle of its skinny self on a detour, wanders a little too, almost ebbs as if possessed by its own impish will to deny my desire. I release my upper lip, pressed against the rim, just enough to try to suck the honey in. But it takes snaking out my tongue and shaking the glass, which clanks against my teeth, to let me reach the leading tip of the trail and finally lick the faintest wisp. More idea than thing. Thank you. Sorry to take up all that time at the beginning.
I was still recovering from Judy's speaking. This one is the one from the recent Sheila-Na-Gig issue. It's titled Snake Eyes. Fate doesn't knock, doesn't stay for tea, doesn't slip in through the back door like a thief in the night. No Kris Kringle down the chimney bearing gifts. The only way we know fate's been here is when we try to swim in its wake. No crone's portioning thread, no lilies of the field who spin not, though toil we do. Outrageous fortune, yes, sea of troubles, yes. Opposing endem, not a bare bodkin in sight. The bard misread the oracle, the bones never roll. Einstein's God does not play dice, but Einstein's God is Spinoza's, substance existing because substance exists. Is this then the undiscovered country? If so, why do we constantly land on its shores, our flag already planted? Chance craps out, the seas of misfortune are fortune's progeny. Still, here you are, fingers drumming the midnight table, and here am I, awaiting the kettle's whistle. One lump or two. Thank you. And the other one I'm going to read is from a recent issue of McQueen's Quinterly. It's called History of Silence. Excuse me just a moment. Got a serious case of dry mouth going on. History of Silence. It begins open-mouthed with what doesn't roll off the tongue, a question unanswered, though you have asked me no questions. Why not, I ask myself. Am I unworthy, uninteresting? Am I perhaps forked tongue retracting, jaw hinges closing, untrustworthy? Even I can't answer that one. Even I mistrust myself. Begins before that, when your eyes find mine, tell me they are lost, and I wonder whose eyes yours are whispering of, though of course I know, my slitted pupils gauging distance to target. Sated you seem to be. Maybe this is what you need, not to be acknowledged, or what I want, or we, yes? A shadow rears its head, yours, mine, a football, and we slither away, serpents in a downpour of moonlight. Illumination limits your speech. My reasons are a rustle in the grass. I am unreasonable, a dumb animal, oblivious to all but oblivion, or so it seems to me now, playing back the hiss of us. Thank you. And thank you, Haley, for hosting this. And KB, I have to get your book. Thanks.
Thank you. It was beautiful reading, KB, and everyone who preceded me. I'm glad I have the book. So I'm going to read both poems from the current issue of Sheila-Na-Gig, and they're both about places. Evening walk, Arcata Marsh. We follow the trail between the ponds, breathe in blue breeze carrying the smells of salt and still water. A great egret, erect, arises from marsh grass, bill glinting in the half-light. A flash, she flaps her wings as if clapping hands and is airborne, neck folded up, legs stretched behind like a black tail. Drawn by the bird's ascent, I lean upward, wish to win against gravity. Every 3 months, a blood test reveals whether cancer's still asleep, whether we'll have further days together. A date on the calendar. As it approaches, a familiar sorrow sucks air from my lungs. Will pain fly past us once again while it sweeps up so many others? Darkness will come, our staring into a starless night. But for now, on this shore sandwiched between bay and shell-pink sky, eyes on the egret's arc, I know you stand where my gaze will land. And a quick note about the place of the second poem. There is this place north of the Golden Gate, which is called Tennessee Valley, and the name comes from a shipwreck. Actually, the steamship Tennessee basically hit rocks in front of this small cove that was renamed Tennessee Cove, and it's now part of the Golden Gate National Parks. Nobody got hurt. Everyone was brought to safety from the boat. It happened on March 6, 1853. Escaping to the edge, Tennessee Valley, California. Some days are for entering fog. You lace up, choose rocky terrain over a church's carpet. Wind's subtle song over the world's cacophony. Fog's gossamer scarf over a sackcloth of fear. Moist air in your lungs, reaching deeply when you climb a steeper section cut into steps, cleansing. Now Mount Tam is there, now it's gone. The narrow band of sand below the bluff erased, only the echo of water splashing ashore. A wish for wings soars with a red-tailed hawk. When two trails intersect and the signs unclear, you stop, unfold the map, lost just enough to taste the thrill of a borderless place. Further on, behind a curve, a stubby tail flashes white. A bobcat arcs across in 2 bounds, lightning. 2 beats of your heart thunder in your ears. Your gaze pursues the graceful animal past the scream of coyote bushes and sagebrush, inviting. The sky bright when the fog breaks open. Lighter, you leap back in. Thank you so much.
Ooh, I think I'm up. I'm Juliana Gray. Thank you so much, Haley, for inviting me and these other wonderful poets to be part of this gathering. Thanks everybody who's already read, and this has really been wonderful. I'm going to read 2 poems that were in Sheila-Na-Gig. I'll start with the downer, and I'll then move to something a little lighter. My mother died of complications from Alzheimer's 2 years ago, and we had a complicated relationship. So the first poem is about that. It's called Elegy for Blue, and you'll probably hear it, but it's a sonnet. Elegy for Blue. Goodbye to cardigans, cobalt cashmere, turtlenecks, and arc of navy socks. Goodbye to sapphire cocktail rings, azure pendant sets stuffed in a jewelry box. Goodbye to powdery nursing home sheets and gaping hospital gowns. My mother's closed her once blue eyes, now colorless as sleet. Hospice folds her veiny hands in repose. Her lifelong favorite color was blue, and so I never wore it, favoring the green that she detested. Now that she's finally died, all her things are packed and bagged to go. I'll never be troubled by that color again, unless I raise my face up to the sky. Okay. And the second one is called The Gaslight District. And yeah, everything in this poem is true. The Gaslight District. Lots of cities have a gaslight district. That's not a joke. I lived in the Gaslight District in Cincinnati for 4 years in an attic where my husband locked me up. Okay, that's a joke. Actually, it's lovely. A neighborhood of 19th century mansions built by wealthy citizens looking to escape the crowds and disease of downtown. The iron gas lights flicker prettily, and husbands tell their wives there is no flicker. They go to Reds games, eat at Skyline, bowls of watery meat sauce over spaghetti, which the city insists is actually chili. My husband read my poetry and said, gently, that I should be a food writer. I felt so miserable, so trapped, I might have gone a little crazy. All the women in the Gaslight District are crazy, according to their partners, who swear the women never mentioned that appointment, who promise they deleted their old flames number, who insist that actually they do listen. They're listening now as they stuff their mouths with beef and cinnamon noodles, claiming it tastes like fire. Thanks.
Okay, I'm Cynthia Anderson. It's been a treat to hear everybody today. It really feels like a family, these Sheila-Na-Gig gatherings. Happy to be here. So I'll read a poem from the current issue. And this is called Tipping Points, and it's a tanka sequence in 4 parts. Bipolar, a planet of extremes, learning to endure the weather of our own making. 110 degrees, shaded and swaddled, a newborn leaves the hospital for a burning world. Water memory, defying the drought, a primate grandmother leads her family to the last spring. Planetary wobble, riding the cycles of 10,000 years, river to desert, then river again. And the second piece I'm going to read is a haibun. It was published in Contemporary Haibun Online last year, and though it is a haibun with a haiku at the end, I would also classify it as a prose poem. And this is a bit of magical realism about trees, magical trees. And there's a reference to a behemoth further on in the piece, and that is one of those trees. It's called From Earth to Heaven. This old-time spa in the foothills remains the stuff of legend. We visit in the off-season, meadows gone brown, the forest leafless. Across a swath of open land, paths wind uphill to shallow pools filled by warm mineral springs, just deep enough to immerse ourselves while gazing down the slope, waiting for the oracle trees to wake up. At last, as we watch, a behemoth stirs, prone and skeletal, but in the next instant, rearing to full height like a wild animal, leaving us breathless as it towers in the breeze. Souvenir, a carved prayer rock says, believe. Thank you.
Hi. Sorry. So also thank you so much. I'm so happy to be here and part of Sheila-Na-Gig. My name is Laura Foley. I'm going to read what was in Sheila-Na-Gig this time around, and one other poem. I run into my ex-therapist, ex-lover, artist from whom I bought lots of paintings. Visiting a friend at an assisted living facility, there she is. The therapist I haven't seen in years dropped with me into a movie. The 2 of us alone in a clean carpeted hallway. But she's in an electric wheelchair, partially paralyzed, must be a resident, no winter coat. I bend to say hello and chat and feel proud. I don't hold any grudge. But then her eyes flare into mine like the old days, like wires sparking my soul. Standing empty-handed in the long corridors, Bardo in my puffy winter coat, my wild heart whipping in wind like a snapped power line. I stride away. I'll be in touch, practically running down the hall, escaping the elevator's sliding electric doors, plunging into the cold, starry night, giddy with freedom. And my wife and I were in Spain this summer, and we went to Bilbao, to the Guggenheim, and I wrote about that experience. Talking about art at the Guggenheim in Bilbao, how profound the air, and the angel, black and white, abstract. But honestly, all I can think about is how at 18, I dated a guy rumored to be Jackson Pollock's illegitimate son. His East River apartment, red lights out the window, Pepsi Cola sign reflected in dimpled night water, floor to ceiling Pollocks on the walls, how cocaine was involved. All this I want to tell my wife, awed by a masterpiece of thrown paint, dots and random squirted lines, as I respect the contemplative silence. But as we enter a Warhol room, I lose it, blurting out how once I had the same surgeon as Andy Warhol, same operation, same hospital, same floor, same month in 1987. How he died, and I didn't, saying my few minutes of proximal fame, lost in contemplating my reflection, wavering over Marilyn's face. Thank you.
I suppose after Laura, it's me. I sneaked in. I was not invited. But I have 2 poems. And one is about silence again. We've had that before. Bob, I think, read one on silence. The Collector of Silence. Both poems are from my book, The Rain Girl. The collector finds them in bars, parks, buses, the underground or coffee shops. He frequents downtown pole dance joints, picks up blondes, brunettes or curly blacks. Long legs, ample behinds. He's not choosy. All have one thing in common. They talk too much. Somewhere in Soho, they stagger down those stairs on dizzying heels, click-clacking their way into his basement, call him affectionately Nutter, make themselves comfortable. He smiles, puts his finger to his lips, and readies the little machine, pushes the button, and records 10 minutes of their silent breathing. When nothing is left, for Virginia Woolf. Those first times, they would on occasion run into each other, feeling something, substance. She'd noticed it one summer night. The moon had penetrated her own reflection in the large sliding doors. After that, her husband would frequently reach through her for the drink she had placed on the mantel. Gradually, he also lost density. The house filled with mirrors, confirming their essential natures. One Wednesday morning, as he wished her good morning, she grabbed his reflection, walked out through the garden door, and drifted towards the river, picking up stones on the way. Thank you very much.
Rose is always invited. You're always invited.
Thank you, Haley.
So thank you for closing us up, Rose, and thank you for all of our readers from the winter issue of Sheila-Na-Gig Online. It's kind of a fluke that we had so many Sheila-Na-Gig Edition authors here. We don't always get so many at once, so that's great. And if you're watching and you're thinking, how do all these people get their books published from Sheila-Na-Gig? Well, I met them all through publishing them in Sheila-Na-Gig Online. So, that's how it happens. Follow the breadcrumbs, people. So thank you, all of you, for being here and sharing your work, and those who came to support us, and to Barbara Stable, who is our associate editor, who curated the issue that we are sharing. And big, huge thanks to KB Ballentine, our featured author tonight, and we're celebrating her collection all the way through.